Well, hi there. Warm welcome. You're watching Blueprint Explosive Exclusive with me, Meghna Dekha. Well, we have seen how in the past world leaders lined up to Prime Minister Modi due to India's rising stature. From handshakes to bear hugs to world leaders rushing to rub shoulders with Prime Minister Modi make it very clear that courting India is now an essential part of the diplomatic plans of leading world powers. Well, today, in fact, remember, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has praised Prime Minister Narendra Modi for being a major world leader and has said that he's the most loved one of all leaders globally. Seeking Prime Minister Modi's help, Meloni has appealed for facilitating peace in Ukraine, saying use the G20 summit stage which has been given to try and ensure that Russia ends its invasion. Listen in.
Prime Minister Modi knows that he can rely on us, on our cooperation, full round support for the upcoming G20 summit. They can rely on Italy, on our government to further enhance our relations. I firmly believe that there's a lot that we can do together. Minister Modi has reached, I think, is the most loved one of all around the world.
Well, the Ukraine conflict dominated heavily in the G20 meeting quite expectedly. Now the atmosphere has been marred by differences and divergences which led to Russia-Ukraine war. In fact, targeted by the opposition back home in India, Prime Minister Modi has enjoyed a special position amongst the global leaders. It's not the first time, remember, that the world has praised Prime Minister Modi. In fact, US President Joe Biden has said that Modi has showed that democracies can deliver. Russian President Vladimir Putin, of course, has branded Prime Minister as a true patriot. The list goes on, but it's Prime Minister Modi, the world is one family approach that has earned him friends across the world. Well, today too, he asserts that the leading economies of the world have a responsibility towards those who are not in this room. He asked to focus not on what divides the world, but on what unites the world. Listen in.
यूक्रेन संघर्ष के शुरुआत से ही भारत ने यह स्पष्ट किया है कि इस विवाद को केवल डायलॉग और डिप्लोमेसी के जरिए ही सुलझाया जा सकता है और भारत किसी भी शांति प्रक्रिया में योगदान देने के लिए पूर्ण रूप से तैयार है. As you meet in the land of Gandhi and the Buddha, I pray that you will draw inspiration from India's civilizational ethos to focus not on what divides us, but on what unites us. We must all acknowledge that multilateralism is in crisis today. The experience of the last few years, financial crisis, climate change, pandemic, terrorism, and wars clearly shows that global governance has failed in both its mandates. We must also admit that the tragic consequences of this failure are being faced most of all by the developing countries.
Well, let me go across to Sushant Sareen, who's joining us, a senior fellow with the ORF. Very shortly, we'll be joined by Major General G.D. Bakshi as well. Sushant Sareen, I'm going to come to you first. Do you think it's very telling when you have the Italian Prime Minister Meloni saying Modi is the most loved one all around the world? This has proven that Modi is a major leader. Does this set the tone for new India, the way it is being perceived, even as a troubleshooter and the power which is going to bring the world together as a family?
Look, I'm a little skeptical about, these encomiums that are paid. This is diplomatics at one level. And personally, I think Indians should stop seeking validation from, Western leaders. I think the greatest validation that any Indian leader has is the fact that he's loved in his own country and he's elected by the people of his country. I don't think there can be any honor greater than that as an Indian is concerned, to become the Prime Minister of this country with such an overwhelming mandate. So I would take any compliments that are heaped on any Indian leader with a pinch of salt. But having said that, I think it's an acknowledgement of the fact that, yes, India's weight in the world is increasing. India has to start pulling its weight in the world. It's quite likely that there'll be many situations where we will not swing one way or another, but we will try and come to a better sense on all protagonists and all belligerents. But it is possible that very often people might not, heed our counsel. And we should do what we have done this time, find workarounds so that, we don't let...
But do you think this adoration, if we can call it, coming in from global leaders, and you're absolutely right, the love which has been shown by the electorate, that should be validation enough, especially with the northeastern poll results coming out today. But Sushant Sareen, there are those who call him a neech aadmi. Everything he says, they say it's a publicity stunt. Sardar of all lies. Those are the kind of terms which are used. Do you think the critics will be silenced with this validation?
No, they won't be silenced because their criticism and their barbs and their abuses on the Prime Minister are partly political and partly out of desperation and frustration. And that's part and parcel of Indian politics. I think that noise needs to be ignored. And a person must keep doing the good work that he's doing rather than get distracted by these voices. So I don't think so. But one thing, I think it's very important to learn lessons from our own history. We have seen that even in the past, when we were being colonized, there were rulers in this country, who were praised till kingdom come, and then they were pulled down. We've seen it in our neighborhood. For example, Musharraf was lauded so much by the Western countries. He was treated as a partner.
Absolutely. You've made a very valid point. Thank you so much, Sushant Sareen, for putting that perspective in as well. India doesn't need the validation. Prime Minister doesn't need the validation of global powers, perhaps. However, it's good to have the acknowledgement, but it is the electorate, as we have seen earlier today, as well as the poll results of the Northeast came out. The thumbs up from the electorate, that's the greatest validation for Prime Minister Modi, perhaps. Thank you so much, Sushant Sareen.